Folks, stop what you are doing right now. I need you to hear this. If you have been saying, I'm fine for the last several months, and somewhere deep down in your chest, you know that's the biggest lie ever. This episode was made specifically for you. Not generally for you, not kind of for you, specifically for you. Because I know something about you that you might not even know yourself yet. You didn't just lose your child, you lost you as well. And nobody, not one person at the funeral, not one grieving prophet, not one well-meaning friend who brought you a casserole, nobody told you that this was going to happen. So today, we are going to talk about the thing nobody talks about. Guys, let's fly. Welcome, my sunblazers and heroes. Welcome to the Rosie Lastra Podcast, sponsored by Jeremy's Unity Flight, LLC. I'm your host, Rosie Lastra, grief recovery coach, nervous system nerd, woman of faith, transformational life coach, and the woman who absolutely, completely, 100% refused to let her worst day become her last chapter. For those of you who are brand new here, welcome to the flight. And for my returning sunblazers, you already know, buckle up, because today we are going somewhere real. I lost my son Jeremy to a rare form of cancer, and I need you to understand something. That kind of loss, it doesn't just break your heart, it breaks your identity. There were months, 8 months to be exact, where I did not know who I was anymore. 8 months where I could not see past the grief. 8 months where the woman I had been, the mother I had been, felt like she no longer existed. And here's the part that nobody tells you about. I wasn't just grieving Jeremy. I was also grieving the version of me that existed because Jeremy existed. The mother who had a purpose every single morning. The woman who knew exactly who she was when she looked in the mirror. The Rosie who laughed differently, who felt safe in the world, who believed life made sense. When he left, she left too. And I remember standing in my kitchen one morning, looking at my own hands and thinking, who is this person? And where did she go? If that sentence just hit you somewhere real, keep listening, folks, because what I learned on the other side of this question changed my entire life. Okay, I need to put on my nervous system nerd hat for a second, because I want to explain something that took me years to understand. And once you understand it, I promise you, you will never look at yourself the same way again. Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between the past and or the present. Read that again slowly, or listen to it again, folks. Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between the past and the present. So if you are still carrying the trauma of your child's death, if you are still in that grief, in that shock, in that identity collapse, your body is not living in the past. Your body thinks it is happening right now. That is not weakness, folks. That is neuroscience. Reverend John Scott, who is my professor, my teacher, and one of the most brilliant humans I have ever had on this podcast. He said it in a way that made me want to pull over my car. When a parent loses a child, the nervous system doesn't just feel sad. It registers this is as a profound a shock as reality itself. The amygdala fires off just like there is immediate danger. Cortisol surges, adrenaline surges. The entire body goes into brace mode. The amygdala, that is the alarm system in your brain. And when you lose a child, that alarm doesn't know it's allowed to turn off. So it keeps firing and firing and firing. That is why you feel exhausted even when you slept. That is why you can't focus even on simple things. That is why you snap at people you love. And Lord knows I did plenty of that. That is why going to the grocery store can feel like running a marathon. Your nervous system is in a war zone, even when the world around you looks perfectly normal. And then, on the top of all of that, do you know what most of us do? We judge ourselves for it. Why can't I function? Why am I still like this? Other people have lost children and they seem okay. What on earth is wrong with me? Some blazers, I need you to hear me right now. Nothing is wrong with you. Your body adapted to devastation. Flight, fight, and freeze. Brain fog, emotional shutdown, hypervigilance. These are not character flaws. These are trauma responses. And the very first step towards healing is stopping the war against yourself. Here's what the alchemist teaches us. When the universe wants to transform you, at first dismantles everything you thought you were. Santiago didn't find his personal legend by staying comfortable. He found it after he lost everything. And I know that sounds beautiful in a book. It feels a lot less beautiful at 3 a.m. when you can't stop crying and you can't remember the last time you felt like yourself. But stay with me, folks, because this matters. After Jeremy died, I didn't just lose a son. I lost the role that had organized my entire experience. I lost the mother identity, the protector, the caretaker, the woman who was needed. And when that identity collapsed, everything else started collapsing too. My confidence, my certainty, my ability to make decisions, my sense of purpose, my faith that the future was worth showing up for. And I thought I was going crazy. I thought grief had broken something permanently in my brain. But then Reverend John said something I will never forget for the rest of my life. He talked about the word persona. Did you know that the word persona originally meant a clay mask that actors wore in ancient theaters? And built into the mask was a voice amplifier, so the character's voice could be heard all the way at the back of the theater. And he said, we in many ways have put on a persona and forgotten that the mask is not us. The mask is not the real person. It's a character. It's a role. The question is, have you remembered that the mask is not you? Some blazers, we have been wearing masks our whole lives. A good mother mask, a strong woman mask, The woman who has it all put together mask. And grief rips those masks right off, violently, without warning, without permission. And we stand there in the rubble thinking we are destroyed. But what if the masks were never us to begin with? What if the real you, the one beneath every role, every title, every identity you've ever claimed, what if she is still there? What if grief didn't destroy you? What if grief is trying to introduce you to yourself? Okay, I have to pause here for a second, because if I don't laugh at myself a little, I will cry. And I already cried plenty earlier today. So we are pacing ourselves today. When I tell you I did not know who I was after Jeremy died, I mean, I once stood in a store at a Publix, couldn't decide between two different boxes of pasta. And then, like 20 minutes later, this one employee taps me on the shoulder. And she looks at me, she says, "Ma'am, can I help you? You've been standing there for some time." At that precise moment, I wanted to tell her that I couldn't even find myself because I was totally lost. That is grief, you all. That is what happens when your nervous system is running on empty and your identity has walked out the door. And here's the thing. If you have had your own version of that supermarket, you are in the right place. Because we are going to figure out all of this together. Now I need to introduce you to the second conversation that cracked my world wide open. If you guys remember, I spoke to Dr. David Kamitzer, nearly 4 decades in the healing arts, chiropractor, ontological coach, and one of the deepest thinkers I have ever had the pleasure of sitting across from. And he said something in our conversation that I need you to really hear. He said, when your stories don't occur to you like stories, when your stories occur to you like reality, those stories use you. Those stories start using your life. Those stories start using your body. Those stories start using your mind. Those stories start using your relationships. And you don't know what is happening until you begin to question whether that is what is happening or not. Say that slowly in your head, folks. Your stories are using you, not the other way around. After grief, so many of us begin telling ourselves a story. I am broken. My best days ended when my child died. I will never feel joy again. I am just surviving now. And I know I've said them all. And we repeat those stories and repeat it until it stops feeling like a story, until it starts feeling like the truth, until it starts feeling like who we actually are. Dr. David called this being lost in the matrix. You believe you are free. You believe you are making choices, but you don't realize that the entire range of choices available to you is being shaped and constrained by the story you don't even know you're living inside. And here is a part that shook me to the core. He said that when identity collapses, when we get our entire sense of worth and existence from that role, and then that role goes away, we suffer. Not because we're weak, but because we were being that role was all that we were. He said it like this: if you are being that you are a mother, and that's all that you are, if you get your senses of worth and value and existence from that role, you're going to suffer. Because that's not all that you are, but you're being that that's all that you are. And you don't know you're being that. And then something shakes you, and it either buries you or you go deeper and hide out that you are a lot bigger than you were being that you were. And folks, that's the way he explained it. That is not the way I speak, but it's the way Dr. David explained it. You are a lot bigger than you were being that you were. I want every grieving parent to print this sentence and put it somewhere you can see it every single morning, because the pain is not proof that you are broken. Give me a minute, folks. Let me see let me see who's connected. Let me go check out the media. Let me know, folks, where you're tuning in from. Let's see. Show. StreamYard. Let me go. Here we go. Let me see. Check out the comments. Please let us know where you're homing in from. Thank you, folks. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me go to... Let's go to Facebook. Here we go. St. Louis is in the house. Thank you, St. Louis. Hi, Betsy. Hi, Bren. Thank you, guys. Love having you on. Good evening, good evening. I would like to go back, but now on the other side of loss, the invitation is to discover that you were never only that. So in other words, that person that you thought that you were, you're a lot bigger than that, guys. You were always more. Reverend John said one more thing that I think is the most practical piece of wisdom in the entire episode. When I asked him, what is the one action a grieving parent can take right now to begin healing? He said, notice and don't stop noticing that you are not your thoughts, you are not your feelings, and you are not your emotions. And then the next question comes, then who am I? Folks, sit in that and meditate on that. That is the whole game. You are not your thoughts, you are not your feelings, and you are not your emotions. You experience them, but you are not made of them. Reverend John used a metaphor that has stayed with me every single day since our conversation. I am the sky. I am not the cloud. The cloud moves through the sky. The sky hosts it. But the sky is not a hostage to it. There is a part of you that will never be harmed. The sky says even the worst storm can happen, and I am still unharmed. Some blazers, that part of you still exists. Even now, even in the middle of the worst grief of your life, you are the sky, guys. The grief is the storm, and the storm passes. Now, I want to talk about something that I think is the most misunderstood part of healing after child loss. Most people think healing means going back to who you were before the loss, going back to the person that existed before the grief. And I tried that for a while. I kept reaching backward, trying to find the old Rosie, until I finally understood something. That version of me existed in a world where Jeremy was physically here. She is not coming back, because that world is not coming back. And that is not a tragedy, folks. That is the truth. Reverend John made a distinction that changed the architecture of how I think about healing. He said there's a difference between healing, folks, and rebuilding. Healing is natural. When life is allowed to move, healing is inevitable. But rebuilding is consciously making decisions. You look at what happened and you decide, what am I going to do with this? How is this going to progress? That is your choice. That is the difference between healing and rebuilding. Healing happens to you. Rebuilding is something you participate in, and both matter. Give me a minute. Let me see. Let's see. Give me a minute, folks. I'm trying to see. Welcome. Guys, great to have you on. And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask. Now, here's something that took place with Reverend John as well. I explained something that I hadn't explained ever before. When my son Jeremy called me up to tell me that he was going on hospice, I was angry. I was furious. And that same weekend, my sister-in-law from Tampa called me and she said, Rosie, you got to come up here. They're having a sound bath and drum meditation at the church, and I think you need it. So I decided to go. And guys, it was the most amazing meditation ever in the planet. I actually went from anger and frustration, being angry at God, being angry at Jeremy, being angry at myself, at everything. And I was able to come out of that meditation after an hour in that with such a peace that allowed me to spend a whole week with Jeremy through the whole process of him being on hospice. Okay, and I asked Reverend John why that happened. And his response to me was about the fact that life is about vibration, okay? And it's the vibration that regulates us. Our heart has a beat. Everything around us has a beat. So it's the vibration that caused that regulation, okay? So going back, sorry guys. So folks, what I want to get you guys to understand is that you're not broken. That woman, that man that feels broken, you're not broken, my love. You're actually becoming. Okay, I want to share what actually helped me, not the inspiration version, the honest version. I went through a process of awareness and then more awareness. The moment I understood that my nervous system had lost its sense of safety, not that I had lost my mind, everything did shift. I stopped attacking myself for surviving. The body has to be part of the healing. Okay. I share something with Reverend John, which is what I mentioned to you guys about the meditation. Okay. And that's how my body participated in the healing was through that meditation. Questioning the story. Every time I caught myself saying, my life ended with Jeremy, I started asking, is this really the truth? Or is this just a story I've been living inside so long? And I decided to change it to, my son would not want me to suffer. Dr. David would say, the moment you know it's a story, you have a choice. You can't choose something you can't see. Awareness gives you back your choice. Faith, the real kind, not the pretty Sunday morning kind. And I am furious at you, and I am still here kind. And boy, was I furious with Jeremy, but I was always there. And I do not understand this, and I am still reaching kind. Reverend John's mantra became part of how I started every single day. Love is who I am. Gratitude is my attitude. Abundance is my nature, and well-being is my birthright. Do I believe it every day? Sincere fraud, like Reverend John said. Not always, but I say it anyway, because the body hears what the mouth speaks. And then, of course, there's community. By becoming part of a community, healing was not alone. Okay, it happens in safe, healing happens in safe connections with people who understand specific weight you are carrying. That is why Jeremy's Unity Flight exists. You should not have to figure this out alone. And then the last one is purpose. Like Dr. David says, something I think about constantly. You decide before you came here what you wanted to learn and where you could contribute to others. It's not one of the or the other. It's learning to have a balance. Jeremy's death shattered me. Jeremy's legacy rebuilt me. The pain didn't disappear, but the pain found somewhere else to go. And that changed everything. I want to close with a prayer, my fellow Sun Blazers and Heroes. Heavenly Father, I lift up every grieving parent who made it to the end of this episode today. You know what it cost them to press play. You know the nights they didn't sleep, the days they went through the motions, the moments they smiled so nobody would worry, and then fell apart in the car or on the way home. Father, remind them today that they are not abandoned. Remind them that losing their identity after losing their child is not weakness. It is love with nowhere to go. And love with nowhere to go, when it finds direction, becomes the most powerful force on earth. Calm their nervous system. Quiet the alarm that has been firing since the worst day of their lives. Restore their sense of self, not the old self, the emerging self, the one you are still building. And help them remember their child's story did not end, and neither did theirs. In Jesus' name, amen. Sun Blazers, if today's episode moved you, share it, like it, and send it to somebody who needs it today. If And if you're ready to change things in your life, send me a DM with Jeremy's name, and I will personally reach out to you. Thank you very much, Sunblazers and Heroes. Thank you so much for being here. And remember, at Jeremy's Unity Flight and the Rosie Lastra Podcast, your healing matters, your story matters, and oh my God, do you matter? Let's fly together and have a wonderful evening. Good night. God bless.